Egypt is old, like really old. Never mind that Cleopatra lives closer to the invention of the iPhone than she did to the beginning of the pyramids, or that we are less removed from Julius Caesar than he was from the first pharaoh of Egypt. The unified kingdom of Upper and Lower Egypt possibly predates even the Bronze Age. There isn't a way for us to know for absolute certain, but there is a possibility that it rose during the twilight of the Stone Age. In relative terms, it makes the fall of Constantinople seem like it was yesterday.
Top 7 most powerful Egyptian gods. At number 7, Thoth. At number 6, Horus, the god of vengeance. Number 5, Ra, the god of radiance. 4, Anubis. Number 3, Osiris. 2, Mut. And number 1, Amun-Ra.
Akhenaten ruled in the 14th century BC and was considered a heretical pharaoh for changing the polytheistic religion of ancient Egypt. He declared there was only one god, Aten, a god he depicted as a disk in the sky.
There are so many illustrations of them painted on the temple walls, as well as granite sculptures of Akhenaten, of his wife Nefertiti, of their daughter Meritaten. Even King Tut was one of the children of Akhenaten and Nefertiti. There are busts of King Tut that also show an elongated skull. We're also seeing that they have a very narrow rib cage, and the
Alright, so we're gonna go inside this pyramid. If you don't hear from me in like 40 minutes, send the search party. This is the Red Pyramid located in Dashur. It is older than the pyramids at Giza. Alright, so we're inside the pyramid. They said to go backwards, so that's what we're doing. My foot's really shaky. But there's the entrance. Once inside, you can take as long as you want. There is no time limit. Now, because this pyramid is not located in Giza, there is less crowds. So I would recommend going to this one if you do want to go inside a pyramid, which is a must.
Do you like your sandwiches with a side of mummy? Welcome to part 1 of Scary Stories from Ancient Egypt. In the 1800s, mummies were the it thing in Europe. Many people used to smuggle them into the country and then have parties to unravel them. But not only that, mummy wrappings became a popular way to wrap food and is a suspected cause of cholera. August Sandwood was an American paper merchant who imported mummies to make rag paper, but of course they were too stained. Maybe it's because they were wrapped up in a dead body for thousands of years. So he sold the paper to butchers and street merchants so they'd have something to wrap their food in. Like, imagine wrapping your shawarma in your dead aunt's scarf. Anyways, an outbreak of cholera was traced back to him, so he shut down the process immediately. Like and follow for part 2.
This week's discovery, said to be the most important discovery since the tomb of Tutankhamun, is the lost golden city of Luxor in Egypt. Announced just last week and nicknamed Egypt's Pompeii, unique zigzag walls that you can see here line the ancient Egyptian streets that you can actually even walk through and imagine what it was like to live in this city over 3,000 years ago. It's an entire city frozen in time with walls preserved up to 3 meters high and the largest ever industrial city to be found in Egypt. Decoding of the hieroglyphs from this pot here, found with dried meat inside that's 3,000 years old, helped date the city to the time of Tutankhamun's grandfather, called Amenhotep III. This was the golden age of Egypt, where the name the Golden City came from. This was really at the height of the empire. They've only been digging for 6 months though, so there's a lot more to uncover, and they're hoping to find evidence of Tutankhamun.
Do people still think the Egyptian pyramids were built by humans? Now, we could talk about how the Egyptian pyramids align with Orion's belt perfectly, or how the ancient Egyptians used the star Sirius as a calendar, or how the coordinates of the pyramid happened to match the speed of light, or how Americans stole one of the Egyptian antennas used to connect with space. Today we're going to talk about the 7 functions of the pyramid. Now each function is listed right here. Then we're going to focus on function 4. The Egyptians understood where they came from. And with Egyptian deities like Sobde, we can see this. The deity Sobde is literally the personification of the star Sirius. When our ancestors came to Earth from the star Sirius, they landed 12 pyramids at 12 different locations on this Earth. One of these pyramids that has a lot of conspiracy behind it is the one in Antarctica. This is one of the 12 pyramids landed by our ancestors. These 12 pyramids are used to balance the energies of the Earth. They were placed at 12 nodes of the Earth where space energies enter our planet. These energies must be balanced or they will disrupt the Earth's magnetic field.
Is the Hall of Records really under the Egyptian Sphinx? Other than the chambers and passages found under it, Plato's friend Solon actually has a story about it. During one of his travels, Solon actually went to Egypt and talked to one of the Egyptian high priests. In their conversation, the priest asked him about the history of the Greek people, to which Solon replied, "First humans were created, then there was a great flood, then they were created again after the catastrophe." After he said this, the priest began laughing. Then he said this, "There have been many devastations over millions of years, and the Greeks only remember the last one. But the Earth is much older than we think, and we have forgotten about the older civilizations that once populated this planet." He said you've lost those records of those earlier civilizations, but we have them. Supposedly, he then took him to see the records. He said the place was huge and stretched over miles. It sounds exactly like the caverns I talked about in part 3. He said they built these things, which could very well be the Anunnaki.
Hello, spooky friends. Let's talk curses. So everyone's aware of King Tut, the boy king who died at the age of 19, and he suffered from a lot of ailments like a clubfoot. His parents were siblings. If you're not aware of who he is, King Tutankhamun was king of Egypt around 1342 BC. And there's an alleged curse cast on his crypt, and it reads as follows. The curse reads, "All who enter this tomb, who will make evil against this tomb and destroy it, may the crocodile be against them in the water and snakes against them on the land." Not to be dramatic, but the curse was real. In 1922, they opened his casket. It started when one of Howard Carter's team, part of the exhibition, went to send a note with a canary, but when they went to open the canary's cage, a cobra was inside of it. Yeah, and the canary was dead. Lord Carnarvon was bitten by a mosquito, infected and had blood poisoning. George Hebert died by a mosquito bite too. George J. Gould I died of fever after visiting. A.C. Mace died of arsenic poisoning. Richard Bethel was murdered. Howard Carter said that he saw jackals near the tomb. He died.
How cats ruled ancient Egypt. Ancient Egyptians believed that the gods and goddesses had the power to transform themselves into any animal they wanted. The goddess Bastet, the goddess of the homes, would transform herself into a cat. And so cats were all seen as the protectors of homes, or tombs in that case. And their cats were so pampered, even more than our cats today. They would eat from their owner's plate, even if the owner is still eating. And if their owners were a royalty or a noble, then their cats would be fully dressed with gold. If their cats died, they would mummify them and then bury them in a cat special cemetery. But they have to die of natural causes, because whoever kills a cat, even by mistake, then their only punishment would be death.
I'm the only person in this area. Ancient statue of Horus, Hero.
This is the sun when he rises. This is the sun when he set. This is the Ankh. This is like a Sphinx.
Some exclusive stuff that you can't get anywhere else. What is this for? But gotta be careful right here. Don't want to fall through these. Falling through the cracks. Whoa, more areas down here. 20 degrees right now, almost 3 p.m. This area is off limits to everybody except for the workers, normally. But it was made to be on limits today for me and meant to be on limits for you, so you can see all of this and experience it with me. Oh, look at this. Ooh, look down there. What is down there? See, there's like another little entryway. The adventurer in me wish I had some ropes and some climbing equipment to go and check all this stuff. Piece of old pottery. Any holes? Goodness gracious. I feel like a mountain goat climbing around some of this. Part of me wants to go up there, but not rocking the right stuff to be doing all that right now.
Did you know that the ancient Egyptians invented the egg incubator? Egg ovens were invented during the Ptolemaic dynasty, 4th to 1st centuries BC, to meet growing demand for chicken. The egg oven had 2 levels inside, with a fire on top warming the eggs below. The eggs were turned and tended with great care. Farmers felt for the first faint movement of the hatching chick by holding the egg against their eyelids. In 2 to 3 weeks, one oven could hatch up to 4,500 eggs. The 18th century French scientist who documented the egg ovens remarked that Egypt ought to be prouder of them than of her pyramids. Today, a small number of traditional egg ovens are still in operation.
Ra is the sun god in Egyptian mythology. This god is usually depicted as a being with a man's body and a head of a falcon. The sun disk is over his head. He had been one day the greatest of all gods, but time wore him down, and finding himself too old, he decided to relinquish the power and go to the skies. This god is one of the most revered figures in Egyptian mythology. As the sun god, one of his duties was to drive away the darkness, and to accomplish his work, the god crossed the skies on his sunboat, lighting the whole world. But when the twilight came, he and his vessel plunged into the sea waters towards the underworld. There he would have to sail through the dark world and cross the 12 gates, which would be the 12 regions of the netherworld.
This here is a Mercury Arc Rectifier. It looks shockingly familiar to what is known as the Dendera light, a motif carved into stone at the Temple of Hathor in Egypt. A Mercury Arc Rectifier is a type of electrical rectifier used for converting high voltage or high current into direct current. This allows the current to be used to drive powerful electromotors like those found in trains. The device is made from blowing glass with a pool of mercury in it. We know that giant pools of mercury have been found around pyramids all over the world. The Djed pillars that the lights rest upon in the stone carvings also look strikingly like modern electrical equipment. Is it possible the ancients did have electricity?
Some of the most haunted places in the Middle East that I do not recommend you visit. Please don't. The Zakra Zamalek apartment. Zakra Zamalek was a Tunisian singer who lived in Egypt with her husband. She sadly and tragically passed away in 2003. Her death was shocking and tragic because it happened at the hands of her husband. He shot her, then shot 2 others, and then proceeded to kill himself. Years later, and people claim that many strange occurrences happen in that apartment. Although no one lives there, neighbors say they can hear people screaming from the apartment and even arguing. Even creepier, the elevator stops at 5 a.m. every day, which is the time when the murder happened. Creepy!